Council Member Kristina Walker, who was elected to the Tacoma City Council back in 2019. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
I'm glad you're back as well. I always love having you on the couch because you are someone who lives her life out loud. And I love the social and the things that you're doing, but it doesn't always tell me a story. So I think when I get you on the couch, this is where the story begins. So you're currently serving an at-large representation in your second term. Yay, congratulations. So how do you think your second term is differing from your first term?
Yeah, well, Tacoma City Council has term limits, so you can only serve 2 terms. So I'm effectively on the second half, the downside of the. So there's an interesting timeline there, right? I have 3 years left. I've got a list of things I want to get done. So there's a certain amount of urgency that comes with that I think is good. My first term was largely in COVID, so that was unique in and of itself. And thankfully, we're not dealing with that directly, but we're certainly dealing with the aftermath. And of course, we're dealing with a whole new government at the federal level. So that's added a whole new level of challenges on the council. But I would say going into my second term and now into the heading into the second half of it, I have so much more confidence in being able to get things done. It really takes some time to navigate city government. Maybe that's stating the obvious, but I am ready to get to work, to be at work, and I have an amazing team of council colleagues. And I always say we argue well and we work well.
I love
and that
that.
really is the dream, right? That's how we get good work done.
It is. You know, last time you were here, you talked about Vision Zero, and now the city has put forth a streets initiative phase 2. How do these fit together and kind of help us understand how we will benefit from this?
Yeah, so this has been one of, I'm a huge advocate for multimodal transportation and making sure our transportation system works for all people, no matter what mode. So I think it was February of 2020, before COVID, so my second month on council, we passed the Vision Zero resolution.
Yes.
Staff spent a couple years putting together the plan, and now that plan is going out to the as part of the streets initiative to the voters.
Okay.
So voters will be able to vote on the it's a renewal of a tax or 2 taxes, and the list of projects highlights Vision Zero. So where do we know people are getting hit, seriously injured, and sometimes killed on our roadways?
Yes.
We have that data. We know exactly where those roadways are and where we need to put the money. So we spent a lot of time doing residential streets over the last 10 years. Most people have seen something in their neighborhood, which is awesome. We've touched every part of the city. Now we need to tackle those arterials, and those are the places where people are getting hit, unfortunately. We have this Vision Zero lens to look at things. It's all about safety and accessibility. How can we make sure you are safe no matter what way you get around this town and what is accessible to you? Sidewalks, ramps, transit. You should have access, anyone in this city should have access to any mode of transportation that they want to use.
Oh, I love that. So I'm on the bus and I'm going down to the Tide Flats, Siberia area. Let's talk about what's going on with that project and when can we expect to move forward?
I love that segue because this is how I think about things.
I just want on the bus, and there's all down there.
So the Tide Flats sub-area plan has been in the works for 7 years. Last fall, 5 governments came together, had been working together, but we came together for a final vote on the plan, the Tide Flats sub-area plan, and it was a unanimous vote. So City of Tacoma, City of Fife, the Puyallup Tribe, Pierce County, and the Port of Tacoma.
All the players.
All the players came together in a unanimous vote. Now that whole package, it's zoning, it's regulations, it's how do we accommodate transit into the Tide Flats. We have light rail coming from Federal Way. That is going to connect. We're going to get more and more jobs into the port because people will be able to get there. So that's going to the Planning Commission right now, and then it'll come back to Council for a final vote this summer. So a big, huge accomplishment, and then we get to work on the plan. It is not something that sits on the shelf. But we're really, really proud of the work that we did. Staff did a huge amount of work, and then that elected body that voted on it in December, it was a huge deal.
I mean, when I think about how you're describing all the moving parts and the different organizations, it's like a chessboard. I'm just
absolutely.
like, oh my goodness, this is so incredible. You know, speaking of some of the things you've done, the City Council did a lot of work last year, passing Home in Tacoma. How do you expect Home in Tacoma will impact our city now that you're in your second term?
Yeah, well, I'm sure everyone's heard about Home in Tacoma, but in case you haven't, it's about making sure that we have more homes for more people. We're growing, and we need to make sure that we can accommodate growth, but we also want to make sure the folks who are here can afford to live here. Yes. So it is housing at all levels. So we did a huge shift in terms of allowing more density in our city. And that came online February 1st. So we'll now see over the next year what that looks like, how many people come and invest in our city, are able to grow in their own backyards, maybe an apartment. But there's also things in there like tree protections that have never been in there before, connections to transportation and transit, a reduction in the amount of parking. So we're not spending as much of our money on space for cars, but we're using it for green space and space for transit. So a lot of things came along with that package, and I think we'll start to see that over the next year. But it's just launched this month, so we'll see.
It kind of feels like you're redesigning a village in terms of when you walk out the door, what should you be able to access?
Right.
How can we lower those barriers?
It's just about housing, but it's also about everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Everything touches.
Tree canopies. It's about all of that.
It's about all of it.
In this last 3 minutes, are there some highlights from your work from the City Council last year that you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure and highlight in this moment in time the work that we've just recently done around making sure that everyone in the city feels welcome. Yes. We passed 2 resolutions this week, one related to our refugee and immigrant community and making sure that people know we're not going to share their data, that we're going to do everything that we can that's in our power. We don't control the federal government. We wish we did, but we don't. So we need to focus on what we can do locally, but we wanted to make a statement to the community that we've got you in the places that we can. And then we did a second resolution specifically for the LGBTQ community to make sure that they not only feel welcome, but safe here. Again, we can't control everything, but what we can, we're going to make sure that you can come into City Hall, that you can interact with us and feel safe and welcome in the city. We also are advocating for a bill at the state legislature around dignity for detainees at the Northwest Detention Center. That's really important. We worked on this 2 years ago. That bill has now gone to court, unfortunately, so we're having to do it again, but we are there. This matters deeply to the City Council, that we can make sure that everyone who is in our city is treated with dignity and respect. Absolutely.
You are known in this last minute for your love of the environment, and you're always out there, you know, riding your bike and doing something on the waterfront. Will that continue once your term ends?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you said it. I ride my bike because it is an environmentally friendly thing to do, but I also love it. And I love being a part of this city where we have access to water, we have access to environment. I will absolutely continue doing that. But I've got 3 years of work to do, and we have a lot in front of us, so we're going to continue that good work.
So you keep cycling and swimming because that relieves the stress.
Absolutely.
And that way we get the best of everything during this difficult time. Yep. Thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your schedule. This has been a heavy, heavy week for the City Council, and I'm sure you've had very little sleep. So again, thank you so much for being here, Kristina.
It is a joy to be here every time. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We have much more to come on Cityline. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Pierce Transit about some of their service changes. You don't want to miss that. I'll see you in a bit.